Hey everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to have you here today because we're diving into something that I absolutely love, taking care of my garden. Now whether you're a seasoned gardener or a complete newbie, you're in the right place. Today, I'm sharing my weekly garden maintenance routine step by step so that you can keep your garden looking its best all year long. If you've ever struggled with keeping your plants healthy or you just want some tips on how to make your garden pop, I've got you covered. By the end of this video, you'll have a solid, easy-to-follow routine that'll make you feel like a garden pro. And the best part? It's not about perfection, it's about taking care of your plants and enjoying the process. But before we get into all of that, I have to say, gardening isn't just about having a green thumb, it's about creating a space that makes you feel good, a place where you can unwind, connect with nature, and even grow your own food. Plus, taking care of plants is an amazing way to de-stress and clear your mind. So why a weekly routine? You might be thinking, why do I need to maintain my garden every single week? Well, a little weekly attention can prevent a ton of problems down the line. If you catch issues early, like pests, overwatering, or wilting, you can take care of them before they ruin your plants. And don't worry, this isn't one of those super high-maintenance, time-consuming routines. I've created something that's quick, easy, and effective. You don't have to be out in the garden for hours every week. Just a few simple steps, and your plants will thrive. Trust me, it's so worth it. Okay, let's talk about why you should care about your garden in the first place. We all know life can be hectic, and it's easy to let our plants take a back seat. But there's something so peaceful about tending to a garden. It's not just about the plants. Gardening is about mindfulness, relaxation, and a little bit of joy. Watching a plant you've nurtured grow from a tiny seedling to a full-fledged plant is one of the most satisfying feelings ever. And it's also a great excuse to spend time outdoors and get a little fresh air. I mean, who wouldn't want to be surrounded by beautiful, thriving plants? Now I know you've probably seen tons of garden videos out there, and it can feel overwhelming with all the advice and routines people are sharing. It can seem like you need fancy tools, tons of knowledge, and hours of work to get your garden looking great. But that's simply not true. With a few basic steps that I'll show you today, you'll have everything you need to keep your garden in tip-top shape, even if you're busy or new to gardening. Throughout this video, I'm going to break it down for you in a super simple, easy-to-follow format. We'll go through each step of my weekly routine, and I promise, it's going to be fun. So whether you've got a huge backyard, a tiny balcony, or just a few indoor plants, you'll be able to follow along and start your own maintenance routine. Before we dive into the actual steps, I want to remind you to grab a pen and paper or open up your notes app, because I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks that you'll definitely want to remember. We're getting ready to take your garden to the next level. Ready? Let's go! Alright, let's dive into the first step of my weekly garden maintenance routine, checking on my plants. This might sound simple, but trust me, this is one of the most important things you can do for your garden. Taking the time to inspect your plants regularly helps you spot any potential issues before they become major problems. Plus, it's a great way to connect with your garden and really see how your plants are doing. So here's how I go about it. The first thing I do is head out to my garden early in the morning. It's usually cooler at this time, and I find it's the best time to get started. Plus, it gives me a chance to enjoy the calmness of the morning and get into the right mindset for the day ahead. But of course, you can do this at any time that works for you. Just make sure you're not out there during the hottest part of the day, as it can stress your plants out. Now, when I'm walking through the garden, I make it a point to look at each plant individually. I'm not just breezing through and giving everything a quick glance. I actually take my time to really look at what's going on with each one, and I encourage you to do the same. Your plants will appreciate the attention. First, I check for any obvious signs of stress. Is the plant wilting or drooping? Are the leaves looking yellow, brown, or discolored? These could be signs of things like overwatering, underwatering, nutrient deficiencies, or pest problems. If I notice anything that looks off, I make a mental note and will address it later in the routine. Another thing I keep an eye out for are pests. Believe me, they can show up faster than you think, especially in warmer weather. I carefully check the leaves, stems, and even the underside of the leaves for any little bugs, webs, or spots that might indicate an infestation. If I find any, I act quickly. You don't want pests to get out of control, so early detection is key. Speaking of pests, sometimes I'll also look for sticky residue on the leaves or around the plant, which can be a sign of aphids or scale insects. If I spot any, I'll immediately take action to remove them. I've found that regular inspections like this really help me keep any pest issues in check. It's not just about looking for problems though. Checking in on your plants is also a great opportunity to celebrate their progress. If you've got new leaves growing, flowers blooming, or any other signs of healthy growth, take a moment to appreciate it. After all, gardening is as much about enjoying the process as it is about maintaining the plants. So, take a second to smile at your hard work paying off. Once I've done my visual check, I also take a moment to assess how the plants are spaced. Over time, some plants might grow too big for their spot or get crowded by neighboring plants. If that's the case, I'll make a note to either trim back or rearrange things to give each plant more room to grow. This helps prevent overcrowding and allows your plants to get the light and airflow they need to thrive. Another important thing I like to do during my check is to look at the soil. Is it dry, damp, or soggy? This can help me gauge if the plant needs watering soon, or if I've overwatered it in the past week. Sometimes soil can become compacted, especially in potted plants, so it's a good idea to gently loosen it up if needed. Lastly, I check the overall layout of the garden. Are any plants out of place or leaning too much to one side? This could be due to wind, rain, or just natural growth. If I spot anything like this, I'll fix it by staking the plant or moving it to a more balanced position. So there you go. The first step of my weekly garden routine is all about giving your plants some love and attention. It's a simple process, but it's essential for ensuring your garden stays healthy and vibrant. By taking the time to check on your plants, you're not just preventing problems, you're also building a deeper connection with your garden. Happy checking. Now that we've checked on all our plants and made sure they're looking healthy, it's time for one of the most important parts of garden maintenance: watering. Proper watering is essential for your plants to thrive, and it's something that can easily go wrong if you're not paying attention. You don't want to overwater or underwater your plants, so finding that balance is key. Let me walk you through how I do it step by step. The first thing I do is assess the moisture level in the soil. I don't just water on autopilot, I make sure that my plants actually need it. The best way to do this is by using the finger test. I simply stick my finger about an inch deep into the soil. If it feels dry, it's time to water. If it feels moist, I can hold off for a day or two. This method helps prevent overwatering, which is one of the most common mistakes people make. Overwatering can lead to root rot and other problems, so it's crucial to make sure your plants actually need water before you give it to them. Now let's talk about timing. I prefer watering my plants early in the morning just after the sun rises. Why? Well, the air is cooler, and the soil has had time to dry out a little overnight. This gives the plants a chance to absorb the water before the heat of the day sets in. If you water during the heat of midday, the water can evaporate too quickly, and your plants may not get the hydration they need. Watering in the morning also gives your plants the whole day to dry off, which helps prevent fungal issues that can arise if the plants stay wet overnight. Once I've checked that the soil is dry and ready for watering, I focus on the roots. When I water, I always aim to water deeply. This means I water the plant slowly, allowing the water to soak all the way down to the roots, rather than just watering the surface. This encourages deep root growth, which is essential for a strong, healthy plant. Shallow watering can result in weak, shallow roots that can't access water during dry spells, so deep watering is key to long-term plant health. It's also important to know your plant's water needs. Not all plants are created equal. Some plants, like succulents, need very little water and prefer to dry out between waterings. On the other hand, tropical plants and vegetables tend to need more frequent watering. Take some time to learn the specific needs of the plants in your garden so you can cater to their requirements. If you're dealing with potted plants, you'll want to make sure the water drains properly. Poor drainage can lead to waterlogging, which can suffocate the roots. So make sure your pots have drainage holes, and if you notice any excess water sitting at the bottom of the pot, dump it out to avoid root rot. Another tip I like to follow is to use room temperature water when I'm watering my plants. I avoid using water that's too cold as it can shock the roots, or water that's too hot as it can burn them. Keeping the water at a comfortable, moderate temperature is a simple yet effective way to help your plants thrive. When it comes to the amount of water to use, I've found that a good rule of thumb is to give each plant enough water so that it starts to drain out of the bottom of the pot, or so the soil feels evenly moist throughout. Be careful not to drown them though. A slow, steady pour is much better than dumping a ton of water all at once. One last thing to mention is that in the hotter months, I tend to water more frequently. During summer or hot weather, the soil dries out faster, so I'll check my plants more often to see if they need a drink. On the flip side, in the cooler months, I water less often because the plants are in a more dormant state. That's it. Watering is a pretty straightforward task, but when you do it right, it can make all the difference in how your garden grows. So next time you're out there watering, take your time, check the soil, and be mindful of each plant's needs. With just a little effort, you'll keep your plants hydrated and happy. Now that your plants are checked and watered, it's time for step 3 of my weekly garden maintenance routine: pruning and tidying up. This step is crucial for maintaining the health and aesthetics of your garden. Pruning isn't just about cutting back. It's about encouraging new growth, removing dead or diseased parts, and keeping everything neat and tidy. A little attention here can make a world of difference. The first thing I do when pruning is take a step back and observe the garden as a whole. I like to look at the overall shape and structure of my plants. Are any of them overgrown or uneven? Are there any branches or stems that are sticking out too much? This is the time to think about shaping your plants for both their health and beauty. For example, if you have shrubs that are starting to look a little wild, a light trim can make them look much more polished. Plus, trimming them helps to encourage fuller, healthier growth. I start with any dead or damaged leaves or stems. If you have plants that have been hit by pests or disease, those parts need to go. Removing these parts helps to prevent the spread of any issues, like fungal infections or pests, and it keeps your garden looking fresh. It's especially important to remove any yellowing or dried up leaves. They're not only unsightly, but they can also steal valuable nutrients and water that could go to healthier parts of the plant. So, grab your pruning shears and start cutting away those damaged pieces. When you're cutting, remember to make clean cuts. It's tempting to just tear off a leaf or stem, but this can cause unnecessary damage to the plant. Use sharp, clean pruning shears and try to cut just above a node. That's where a leaf or stem grows from, or at an angle. This encourages the plant to heal faster and continue growing in the right direction. Next, I focus on removing any dead flowers or spent blooms. This process is called deadheading, and it's especially important for plants like roses, daisies, and petunias. Deadheading helps the plant redirect its energy from seed production to new growth and more blooms. Plus, it keeps the garden looking neat and well cared for. For some plants, like geraniums, deadheading can result in a second round of flowers, which is always a bonus. Another aspect of pruning is thinning out overcrowded areas. Sometimes plants grow too closely together, competing for sunlight and nutrients. If you notice any areas where plants are rubbing against each other or growing too tightly, gently remove some of the stems or leaves to give the others more space. This will encourage better airflow, which helps reduce the risk of diseases like mold or mildew. Additionally, it allows the plants to grow stronger and taller without having to fight for resources. Once I've done my pruning, it's time to tidy up the garden. I don't know about you, but I find a messy garden to be a little bit stressful. Taking a few minutes to clean up the area can make it feel so much more peaceful and organized. I start by collecting any leaves, branches, or dead plant material that I've pruned. I'll either toss them in the compost bin or throw them out if they're diseased or pest infested. Keep your garden clean, and it'll be less inviting for pests and diseases to come back. I also take time to remove any weeds. Weeds are the sneaky little troublemakers in the garden. They can steal nutrients and water from your plants if left unchecked. I use a small hand tool or just pull them by hand to make sure I get the roots. I also check for any weeds that might have sprouted around the base of my plants, or in between the cracks in the pavement if you have any hardscaping in your garden. Keeping these under control is key to making sure your garden stays healthy and your plants aren't competing for nutrients. Finally, I check the garden for any other small tasks, like adjusting the position of any plants that may have tipped over, or rearranging pots. I make sure everything is in the right spot, and I take a moment to just appreciate how my garden is coming together. It's about creating a space that feels good to be in, and where your plants can grow without any hindrances. And there you have it, pruning and tidying up. This step might seem small, but it's incredibly important. By removing dead material, shaping your plants, and cleaning up the garden, you're not only improving the appearance of your garden, but you're also helping your plants thrive. It's a simple task that makes a huge difference in the health of your garden, so make sure to dedicate some time each week to keep things in order.